Hi there, Chris here with just a tip for you all. In this video we are going to look at how Citadel's new contrast paint sits on top of a tank or larger surfaces that aren't organic. And so as you can see here we have our little Rhino example, and it was primed in the new Citadel Gray Sear Prime. We're going to use Ultramarines Blue from Contrast. And I'm going to use a large brush to apply this. This is the Citadel large base coating brush. And as you can see, I've got a fairly heavy helping on the bristles and begin applying it to the surface. The first thing you notice is that you can see the brush strokes that you leave behind quite readily. So, and again, you can see the excess contrast that's kind of pooling around, and so I draw it out, and just to kind of mitigate some of the brush strokes, I go with a more uniform application of applying the colors. Basically, I'm going in a north-south kind of direction, an up and down kind of thing. I'm forcing it into little nooks and crannies here and there, but then I just kind of brush the areas over and just kind of, unify the brush strokes, as it were. But as you can see, as we're applying it, the real strength, I think, in this color does basically work more for organic shapes, as the transparent nature of the color kind of gets lost as you are applying this over large surfaces, large flat surfaces. And you see here I'm unifying up some of the brush strokes. Then you can see, like initially it's wet, it's okay. We'll have a look at it when it's dry. Here it is when it's dry, and you can still see the brush strokes. And if I'd applied it a little heavier, I think it would have looked a little bit worse. You would have still had some nice deep action as far as in the recesses. So I apply a second coat, and basically I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to go in a left-right type of direction for my brush stroke. So I begin applying a fairly heavy helping. And as you can see, because we're applying a second layer, the color is becoming much more saturated. But again, you can still kind of see the brush strokes being left behind. Again, I'm not using any kind of water to thin the color out. I'm using the paint straight from the bottle, and you can see how it's kind of slow going. It's not quite as effective as when you see it on smaller scales, even like models like Space Marines that have large, broad areas on them. You can get away with it, but as far as these larger surfaces, it's not quite the same. And as you can see here, and I'll set this aside, let it dry, and bang, you can see. Probably a third coat would give us a nice even layer across the surface, maybe even a fourth coat. But ultimately, the contrast, that effect of the contrast where it creeps into the recesses, probably would be lost. And so, is this a strength for this paint? Here, not so much. But maybe somebody out there will make it work far better than I have. I don't know. Time will tell as everybody gets their hands on these colors. But that is it. That is the contrast on a tank. Large surface. There you are.